Hello, hello, lovelies. It's your favorite goat back again. Things have been wild around here lately. I got more hands, more faces, I got let out of this tiny red closet and into the big goat library. I've even done my first longer and even longer videos, with plenty more on the way. All in all, it's been a good start to the new year at Fable Academy, and that's all thanks to you for supporting my channel so far. And rest assured, I may just be finding my hooves around here, but I'm still telling stories for your listening pleasure. So while I'm cooking up some special stuff to show all my thanks for all your support, here's a swipe-free compilation of my short story videos for you to turn on and switch off. Stay magical! Killed just before the session-long big bad evil guy fight in a cutscene. The title is the TLDR version. This is an older story that someone's comment in another post reminded me of. The quotes are not actual quotes, but approximate what I can remember from the conversations. Back around the early 2000s, I was in a long-term campaign. We had just gotten to the big bad evil guy fight, and the DM straight out killed my character in a cutscene. No saving throws, no chances to defend myself, just dead. I asked the DM why, and he said it was supposed to inspire the rest of the party to fight harder. Now what? And he replied that I was just going to have to wait. Wait for what? I asked. Can I pull one of my spare characters? He said that I couldn't, since it would be too contrived to drop in a character in the middle of a boss battle. So what am I supposed to do now? I asked. And he replied, you're just going to have to wait until the battle is over. So just before we get into combat with the boss, you kill me and I'm supposed to do what? Sit back and shut up and watch the battle? DM nods. I start packing my stuff and get ready to leave. DM is not happy with this decision. We go back and forth for a bit, and eventually and begrudgingly he tells me that there's a scroll of resurrection in the treasure for after the fight. I said, why bother? This is the end of the campaign. You said it yourself that once this guy's dead, you're stepping down, and Jeff, one of the other players, was going to start his campaign. So bringing me back after it's all over does nothing. I left at that point. Didn't play again until several months later, when there was a looking for players notice at the game store. Ah, oldie but a goodie. Right off the bat, I know this is going to sound pointed to a lot of people, like the DM maybe had it out for OP, but I genuinely don't think that's the case. Maybe I'm naive, but this is a 2-year-long campaign with another campaign about to start with the same group, so any kind of conflict would have been way clearer than that by now. And this would have been a long time coming. No. I genuinely think this was the DM thinking he could do something awesome and tripping over his own shoelaces hard. In the 2000s, the trope of fridging another character to inspire the others was very common across most media, especially movies and comics. So I think the DM just thought he was gonna have a more epic moment than it was in practice, but he genuinely forgot that there's a player on the end of that severed limb who was going to take offense. The logic is just too flawed for it to be malicious. Like OP says, resurrecting the character does nothing when the campaign is about to end, and having a whole other party member would be far more useful in the fight than other characters just fighting harder in their honor. I mostly wish we could know what the other players were doing while all this was going on, because I seriously would hope that they took issue with this as well, but it sounds like if they did say anything, they didn't say enough. Come on, Jeff, you're about to inherit these players, stick up for them! But that's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. DM starts the campaign nice, but progressively becomes unhinged. This happened over the course of several months, but I'll aim to summarize as best I can. About 2.5 years ago, I, NB30, start a campaign. My first campaign, with DM, M50, and a group of 4 other people, all M ages 35 to 45. At the start, all is going well. The group is having a lot of banter, and the inside jokes are building fast in a group of rogue/bard, fighter, druid, me, artificer. Artificer and I knew each other and were friends prior to the game. I'm interested in learning how to DM, so I strike a friendship with the DM and we start talking about potentially running the next campaign as co-DMs. Progressively, however, I notice that the DM is playing favorites with the fighter. The fighter can make jokes, often harassy in nature, that are amusing, but jokes by the artificer or me is frustrating and almost immediately shut down. Out of combat stuff the fighter comes up with needs to involve the whole party, including a joke about following my druid around and not giving an inch of privacy to disrupt something I had explicitly said I wanted to do on my own, while anything not pertinent to the main quest is dismissed for Artificer and me. My druid loses a crucial piece of equipment during an important fight, and it takes 3 months to replace it with something equally powerful, while the others gain 2 equipment upgrades in that same time, putting me at a deficit in combat compared to the rest of the party. Artificer leaves the group due to changes in work schedules and is replaced by a friend of the DM's, Barbarian. With the arrival of Barbarian, the DM gets more and more aggressive in his DMing, placing us in fights and puzzles increasingly elaborate and getting audibly frustrated, we would play over Discord voice call, if we weren't getting the solution to the puzzle quick enough, and regularly telling us that we needed to take the game seriously and that now was the time that maybe we would die. That last part would make him feel excited and wasn't discussed beforehand. And also, I had explicitly expressed multiple times before that I wasn't interested in the permadeath of my character. I was starting to get scared of the DM at this point, both because it was starting to become increasingly obvious the game was getting out of hand, and because I could no longer recognize my friend. Then everything came to a halt one night where the DM, fighter, and barbarian joined in on a joke to make fun of me for wanting a killer whale wild shape for my druid. DM was restricting which wild shapes I could and couldn't use, laughing at everything my character had done in the campaign in the last few weeks, and overall being obnoxious. I got tired of this whole boys will be boys mentality at that point and decided to leave the group. That's a pretty toxic table for sure. It sounds like everyone else at the table had a prior friendship with the DM or played into his favor over the course of the game. That rogue bard seems pretty complacent in all this if you and Artificer were the only ones who got singled out. Honestly, OP, you're better off at a better table with more room for friends and less room for favorites. Don't let your first campaign be your only campaign, just your worst one. But that's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Am I too sensitive, or is my experienced DM's sister being rude? I've been DMing for about a year. A few months ago, my sister, who is younger than me but has years of DM experience, lived with my family and I for a while she and her new husband were looking for a place to move to. I told her I had been DMing a D&D campaign while using a DM PC. She immediately got on me saying I shouldn't have done that because she felt I wasn't ready for it. I explained she was loved by the party and I was avoiding the common traps of a DM PC. She then proceeded to ask me more about the campaign, so I showed her a picture of the party that one of the members had drawn. For context, our party consisted of a Leonin fighter who had recently double-classed as a paladin because of plot reasons, a tiefling bard, a homebrew Bearnin barbarian who had recently double-classed into a druid, an Aarakocran gunslinger fighter, a human bard, a water Genasi blood hunter, a Goliath fighter, and finally my character, a Furbolg druid who had recently double-classed as a ranger. My sister looked at the picture and with this cringing voice asked me, "Why is most of your party furries?" I explained that it was what the party wanted and she accepted that, as much as I could tell she hated it. She then asked me if anyone had died yet, to which I responded, no. What she said next feels like she crossed the line. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Nobody's died yet? You're a bad DM." The next 2 days, I fell into a depression. My party reassured me that I wasn't a bad DM because everyone was having fun, but I wanted opinions from other people. Am I a bad DM or am I being overly sensitive? Okay, maybe I'm a little bit biased here, but that sounds like a pretty kick-ass party right there. I mean, where the hell do I sign up? Come on, there's gotta be room for a little goatman wizard in that fantasy fursuit parade? Seriously though, OP, you are not being overly sensitive here. Your sister might have her style of DMing, but so does every DM. Some players are murder hobos, some DMs are vengeful gods, but that doesn't mean she gets to tell you how to have fun. Because at the end of the day, that's what these games are supposed to be. Fun. Your sister's not playing your game. Your players are. So listen to their reviews on your work and don't sweat your sister's bullshit notes. And seriously, if a spot ever opens up at that table, please keep this little goat in mind. But that's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. I hate wild magic. I hate wild magic. I hate wild magic. I really hate wild magic. Ah! Okay, I don't really hate wild magic. What I do hate is DM, homebrew, wild magic tables and settings that turn every caster into a wild mage. So I'll keep the party composition short, but the dungeons are all in this magic weirdification area. Every time anyone casts a spell, there's about a 50% chance of it going wildly haywire. Like, bonkers haywire. Like, I took 160 damage from the side effects of 2 spells, a level 5 and a level 2, neither of which were even pointed at me. At this point, I've basically resolved to not even bother attacking again. My actions don't matter, the actual spells being cast don't matter, no player action matters. The wild magic table is the only thing that matters. We've had like one major combat that wasn't immediately decided by random magic one way or another. I thought the designers of this module must be insane. But in short, none of this nonsense is actually in the module. I checked after this last time. Luckily, next time we've been given an opportunity to just turn off that effect. And I'm hoping we get to do it. Once that happens, I'm hoping we actually get to do some major combat shit. But we shall fucking see. TLDR, your wacky homebrew wild magic tables suck, actually. Fucking hell. My first awful D&D experience. I remember the first time I tried D&D was at some school club one of the teachers was running. Because obviously the teacher wasn't going to be able to DM every single game on their own, they split up the club into multiple groups and had the students DM the sessions. I remember getting paired up with someone I knew but wasn't exactly friends with. They'd hang around my existing friend group occasionally, and they'd often tease me about stuff like being a furry, which was annoying, but they were never around enough to truly bother me. We were doing character creation, and luckily the teacher running the club had given us all free PDFs of the player's handbook. I remember looking through it between club meetings and really wanting to play a Dragonborn bard. When I asked the DM if I could play one, he said no, because a Dragonborn's claws would destroy the instrument. When I asked him if I could play something like drums, he told me no. Not having any D&D experience, I just took what he said at face value and ended up playing a Dragonborn druid. In hindsight, I probably should have taken that as a sign to get out of there. I only lasted one session at the club after character creation due to even more drama between me and the DM that I don't really remember much about. In hindsight, knowing more about D&D now, I'm genuinely confused as to why he didn't let me go bard. I still played a Dragonborn and a caster, so clearly he didn't have an issue with me being either, and all of the options I was choosing were in the player's handbook, so it wasn't like I was pulling out some crazy homebrew. If there was another bard in the party, I don't remember, and I doubt I'd know since I was so new, and the DM didn't want me playing one for that reason. He should have just been honest. Needless to say, when I got Tasha's, I felt so validated seeing a Dragonborn bard in the artwork. Typical. Just because you're a furry, you have to play a Dragonborn? That's so basic. Okay, all jokes aside, I'm gonna go easy on all this because this is literally high school level drama, and I'm sure by now OP's had hundreds of amazing D&D experiences that truly let them flaunt that furry goodness. Suffice it to say that DM was probably a dick, but more likely was just a dumb kid that didn't know how to DM and got intimidated by a combination like a Dragonborn bard. But beyond that, think of the logic. Even if the standard instruments didn't include claw-friendly options like drums, woodwinds, and just the character's own voice, necessity is the mother of invention. If a Dragonborn wants to play a lute, they're gonna invent a lute that's tough enough to be played with claws. Which, now that I think about it, just sets up a Dragonborn bard to be the most metal character you could ever meet in D&D. Just like, Dragon Power! But that's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. My DM cried when I gave him feedback. Hey guys, short backstory. I have played a few sessions of D&D in the past, but have recently gotten into it and am making a habit to force myself to go out and do things in person. Breakups are wild for getting you out of the house, huh? I found a group that do one-shots for beginners. I just had my second event, first with this DM. Fortunately, I'm already in good stead with the group. Apparently, I know when to help the DM push forward, when to handball things to more reserved players, when to take the spotlight, and more importantly, when to stay out of it. All great feedback, but we aren't here to circle jerk me apparently being a good storytelling nerd. Table in question has DM, myself and 2 other males and 1 female. Story is, it's very on rails. Simple questions or even basic deviations are frowned on or leave the DM flustered. But that's fine, he has a story to tell, I'll try and have fun with it another way. Group split, myself and 1 of the other male players are going through the room of a disappeared warlock. For some reason we find the only female at the table's character's nudes. Oh dear. I try and make a joke about it. Oh, these are hand-drawn, that's equally impressive and creepy. Imagine how long it took. Then never mention it again. Neither does anyone else at the table except the DM, who probably brings it up every 10 to 15 minutes for the next 2 to 3 hours. And I could tell, or at least felt like I could tell, that the smile had become forced very quickly. After the game was over, some of us went out to eat, and I brought it up to the DM, said I thought it was a bad call, said if my hypothetical partner had that happen at her first experience of D&D, I don't know how I'd react. But it would be poorly and potentially physically, so I thought it might be best to not go for that sort of humor, especially when it's a table full of dudes except for her. This man cried. I spent the next hour trying to downplay it as, oh, she probably didn't mind, maybe I'm just too sensitive about this sort of stuff coming from big corporate companies in the past. My real reason for posting and my honest question is, was I too direct? It's important to note that I am the normiest of normies. I have nothing going on. No issues except for a little bit of new experience anxiety and healthy dread of talking to women, but who doesn't have that? Is direct not going to serve me well in this hobby? Was there a different or more acceptable way to tackle something like this? Okay, no, OP, you were not too direct at all. If anything, you were nicer than he deserved. I'm not going to speak on behalf of women or anything, because women have every right to enjoy this kind of humor if they consent to it in advance, but who cares if this guy cried over this? Furthermore, if you were the only 1 out of 3 guys who could have said something but didn't, then I have issues with those 2 as well. These games are for everyone to enjoy and feel safe, and more people like this need to be called out even if they cry about it. But that's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. I just ran my first D&D game, and here's all the things I did wrong. To preface, I've never DM'd a game before, and the few times I've played in the past, it's been D&D 5th edition. So my knowledge base is not the biggest. But the other day, I ran a one-shot with a few friends I felt safe enough to do this with, in the complete understanding I'd fuck up something along the way. And it went great, all things considered, but fuck up I did! The module I ran was Love's Last Light by Traveler's Rest. It's a light-hearted, low-stakes, Valentine's-themed first-level one-shot marketed as a beginner-friendly module for small groups or just one player and the DM. Link in the description along with their Patreon. So here's what happened. I got 4 of my most experienced D&D playing besties together to play, and one ended up not joining because they weren't feeling well, and we prioritize health in this house. This left me with a Harengon Ranger, a Drow Fighter, and a Tabaxi Monk. So I made the snap decision to include the built-in companion character, Captain Gwyn, as a DM PC. This was a bad idea. Here's what I learned. Using Gwyn as a DM PC when you've got 1 player and no one to RP with? Great! But when you've got 3 players trying to RP with each other and solve a mystery? Nope! I ended up using Gwen to push my characters along a little too much, to the point where it made RPing awkward until the midpoint, and we actually skipped the festival games they could have been playing to win some stat boost items. In short, I railroaded my players! I'm so sorry! But even so, the story progressed and the plot thickened. My players spoke with the NPCs, I ran checks as suggested in the module, and thought of a few of my own, and I even got to develop Gwyn's character just a little, and then we reached the combat portion. The module gives you 1 bad guy player with 24 hit points, as well as hired thugs at 13 hit points each, with as many thugs added as necessary to match the size of the party. So I had the bad guy and 3 thugs. Then they did the unthinkable. They talked the bad guy down from fighting before the combat even began! can! So, on my feet, I decided to have the 3 thugs turn on their employer and fight on their own. But the thugs only had 13 HP each and no heavy hitter to make the combat last. So within moments, 2 of the 3 enemies had been one-hit KO'd by consecutive critical hits, and the last one survived 1 attack just to lose his next 2 HP immediately after. So a single round of combat later, we get a pretty great rule of cool moment to round out the game, and my players managed to get the best possible ending. Yay! So yeah, my first time as a DM, I fell into a couple of the usual pitfalls, but that's okay. We had a bunch of really great moments and it was fun, and at the end of the day, that's what matters. And looking back, I'm glad I only fucked up as much as I did. So what mistakes did you make your first time DMing? Go on, embarrass yourselves in the comments! Shout out to my friends that indulged me in this game and for telling me to be kinder to myself in this video! And check out Love's Last Light and other modules by Traveler's Rest below. Happy 2026, lovelies! Player refuses to join the party because my character wouldn't do that. So, a long time ago, I was running a game of D&D 5th edition, and one of my players, let's call him Dwarf, wanted to play a dwarf blacksmith and former soldier who hates war and now lives in a quiet, small village. He also said he wanted to be introduced last. I had no problems with it, so we started session 0. Within the first 10 minutes of the session, most of the party had formed because they were being chased by the big bad evil guy. Eventually, they got to the dwarf's village, and I introduced his character by saying an aged dwarf blacksmith walks by carrying coals. He immediately interjected with, actually, blacksmiths use charcoal, not coal. He would do this every time I made a mistake describing blacksmithing. Actually, you don't forge steel like that. Actually, there wouldn't be swords in this village. So after 10 minutes of that, the party asked him to join, and he refused, saying, it wouldn't make sense that my character would join a group of random people and fight. You need to convince me or I'm not going. This went on for 20 minutes of the players trying to convince him to go, and he kept refusing. Finally, I just said, look, I know it's not super realistic, but it's a fucking game, and you said you wanted to join, so are you just gonna sit on the side while everyone else plays? He ended up joining and justified it because one of the player characters reminded him of his dead son, but then said, I'd take him under my wing and spend the whole winter teaching him how to blacksmith. I stopped him there and reminded him that the big bad evil guy is on his way, and you don't have time to teach people shit. But then how is my character going to bond with anyone? You need to learn writing, bro. The rest of the players said they didn't want to do all that and wanted to get on with the main quest. So he relented and we continued on with the rest of the session and ended by entering the first dungeon. The kicker is, 2 weeks later, he got real into Rick and Morty, and by the time of the next session, he retroactively changed his character into Dwarf Rick and kept trying to do that voice while shouting "Wubba-lubba-dub-dub" at every chance he got. Oh, the Rickification is just the cherry on the cake for this type of player. I mean, I've heard of players using "my character wouldn't do that" to justify some pretty messy stuff, but I've never heard of someone's character just refusing to join the party at all. And then this dead son stuff comes up, and he has to, like, curtail it into some weird pseudo-parent relationship? Unbelievable! Oh, but here's some obscure blacksmith roleplay stuff for you. If you ever have to sabotage a blacksmith forging a weapon or something, sneak some gallium into the crucible. It's a liquid metal, kind of like mercury, and it just ruins the steel and makes it super brittle. Just a little tip for you there. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Player says I can't play as a woman because it will ruin his immersion. English is not my native language, so apologies if my wording might be weird sometimes. A short story about trash that took itself out. So I and a group I've been playing with, me, my DM, my 3 longtime friends, and 2 new guys, were pretty much in the middle of our campaign, about 25 sessions in, when a story arc for my character concluded. He was a warlock, but his whole deal was that he was bound by a contract since the moment he was born, because his father offered him a firstborn child as a sacrifice. My character wanted to free himself from this contract and ultimately succeeded, broke his link with his patron, but also lost all of the powers that came with it. I I didn't want to change his class to keep playing as him, so I came up with a story for him that he basically decided to retire and settle down, maybe follow a romantic relationship he had with one of the NPCs. My DM was happy about it, and he agreed for me to come back with another character. So I worked with my DM on this new character, and I decided that this time I wanted to play a woman. It wasn't anything new for me or my DM. I've played as both men and women in the past, and there was never any issue. My previously mentioned longtime friends were all women, but they also sometimes played male characters. But it so happens that this time they were all playing as women. When I introduced my new character on the next session, everyone was alright with it except for one of the new guys, who asked me why I would want to play as a woman. I said there was no particular reason, I just wanted to. He said that it's not immersive, and throughout the session he kept making jokes that my character has a mustache, because I did at the time in real life, and so on. Thankfully, I wasn't the only one at the table that was uncomfortable with it, all of my friends were too, so we told him after the game that he either stops acting like that, or he stops playing with us. He kept trying to argue his case about immersion, and also tried to make weird suggestions that maybe I'm trans if I want to play as a woman, and the way he said that had clear transphobic intentions. Soon after that, he just left the place we were playing at. The rest of us decided to not allow him to play with our group anymore, and we were fully prepared to confront again if needed. But the next day, he left our group chat by himself, and we never heard from him again. By the way, the other new guy that we were playing with is very chill, and he still plays with us. Wow! Grade A douchebaggery with a side order of transphobia no one asked for. Seriously, I get so tired of these people who can handle warlocks and dragons and contracts with gods and demons, but can't handle a man playing a woman without it ruining the immersion. This table's chill enough to let two strangers join their hard-forged campaign after 24 sessions, and that's how this guy want to act? I'm glad this ended with that guy taking himself out before someone threw him out on his ass, cause goat knows that's how much patience I have for these people. But that's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. I had a player that was just showing up and not actually playing. I'm going to try to make this brief. I recently had to let a player go. I will call this certain player Cleric. About a year ago, I invited Cleric, my wife's friend, to play D&D with us. I think it's important to note that Cleric is 30 years old. The problems with Cleric began right off the bat. She sat there on her phone during most of the sessions, scrolling through TikTok. When she wasn't scrolling on her phone, she was constantly interrupting the game with rants about her favorite book, TV shows, music, and just about anything but D&D. Cleric always had pretty bad luck when rolling dice, which would often discourage her from playing. I understand how that feels. However, she never added any modifiers to her rolls nor bothered to learn the basic rules of the game. For example, Cleric would hand her phone to my wife to add spells to her character, or when I told the group to level up. During the first session back, after taking a month or so away from the game, we started a new campaign. I asked her what spell she would like to use in combat, and she had a hard time finding her spells in the D&D Beyond app. So I showed her where to find the spells to see she didn't have any. I then had to take the time to add spells for her. She wouldn't do anything during the game outside of what little she did in combat. If I asked her what she was going to do, she would tell me she was following my wife's character around. One time in combat, she rolled a 1 in initiative, without a modifier, and decided to sit out that combat completely. As you can imagine, she scrolled on her phone instead. I got very frustrated with Cleric. I didn't understand why she would even bother showing up to the sessions when she wasn't even playing. This was my final straw. She discovered that rolling dice with her mouth gave her better luck. She sat there at my table, literally spitting the dice out of her mouth, even when I wasn't asking for a roll from her. She spit all over my nice maps and I was absolutely disgusted. I eventually told her it's not working out. She got mad and left our group chat. I could go on more about this player, but I will end it here. Thank you for reading. Where do I even start with this? Okay, being an absentee player is bad enough, but the spitting dice over the table thing is just... what is this? Like, okay, I can understand that some people struggle socially but still crave social interaction, and that's fine. I, of all people, can't begrudge anyone for being socially atypical. It sounds like Cleric just enjoyed being at the game rather than playing the game, especially if she was already struggling to play and that soured the taste of it for her. But that's the nice version of my thoughts on this, that give her the benefit of the doubt by a wide margin, rather than Cleric just being the weirdest kind of troll player. But that's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments.